Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. It's your favorite realtor, Dr. Yeti, and I am back with yet another video. Yes, I know I didn't post yesterday, but I have a good reason for it, okay? I usually get led to do things. If the Lord leads me to post a video, I will post it. I created this channel to help people understand what they're investing in and how to shop wisely for a home. And honestly, if God tells me not to post, I'm not gonna post. I'm gonna relax. And lo and behold, God willing, I made 1 subscriber yesterday, okay? And that is more than enough for me, and I'm very grateful to God for that. I'm at 69 followers today, okay? God willing, by the end of 2025, I'm gonna be at 100 subscribers, okay? So if you're watching this video and you have watched my videos and you haven't subscribed yet, what is stopping you? Come on, get indoctrinated to the family, okay? Well, welcome. If you have never seen me before, welcome to the channel. I'm a realtor based in Georgia, and I do reaction videos on what's happening in the real estate world. So today I'm going to be talking about the 50-year mortgage once again. It is hot in the press, okay? I talked about it 2 days ago, and I'm going to be talking about it again today because obviously this is something that a lot of people are concerned about, right? Is a 50-year mortgage worth it? Is it something that we should be praising? Should we be excited about this, or is it something that we should be very weary of? So I'm going to be reacting to another perspective on a 50-year mortgage. So let's get to it.
Do not get a 50-year mortgage until you watch this video. The United States is facing an unaffordability problem. Things are expensive, incomes are not keeping up, and layoffs are rising because of artificial intelligence. And over the last week, the Trump administration has come together with a 3-step proposal to try to make things more affordable in the United States. But if you don't understand this, it can end up hurting you more than it will help you. So let me break this down one by one, that way you understand what's going on, understand the risks, and not get caught up in the trap, starting with a 50-year mortgage. And let's just go through some numbers. If you buy a $500,000 house today, you put 20% down, $100,000, and you finance the other $400,000 at a 6.5% mortgage rate over 30 years, it's going to cost you $2,500 a month. But if you get a 50-year mortgage, now instead of paying $2,500 a month, you're going to pay $2,250 a month, which sounds good because that means you're saving about $250 a month. But the part that you're missing with that is how much additional money you're going to be paying in interest to the bank. In that 30-year mortgage, you're going to pay a total of $900,000 to buy the $500,000 house. So you're going to pay $500,000 for the house plus $400,000 in interest over those 30 years. With a 50-year mortgage, you're going to pay $1.35 million to buy that same $500,000 house. So you're going to pay $500,000 for the house, plus an additional $850,000 in interest.
Let me say this. I'll be very honest. I do agree that you should be aware that you are paying the bank way more. Like, you are giving them way more in interest than if you were to get a regular 30-year mortgage or even a 15-year mortgage. However, I will say this. I'm playing devil's advocate because I get their perspective in terms of how much you're paying the bank in interest. But if you are going to be paying that amount anyway in rent or more, like, let's think about it. Let's be serious. If you're going to be paying that amount anyway in rent, what is the difference? You never own it ever versus you paying that amount for 50 years and maybe you don't own it, but your kids own it or your kids own it, right? Or you end up selling it for equity, right? Or you're paying more into the mortgage payments, or you buy what you can actually afford. Like, I get what he's saying and I 100% agree, but stop thinking about how much the bank is going to be making. Stop thinking about how much the bank is going to be making. Think more so on how much you can afford. and how much equity you're able to build. Because if you decide to sell this house in 5 years, even if it's a 15-year mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, a 50-year mortgage, will you have enough equity built on that home to be able to sell it, okay, at a profit? That's what you should be thinking about. Now, maybe he may touch on it or talk about it, but it's either you're making the bank wealthy or it's either you're making the bank wealthy directly through paying a mortgage payment, or you're making the bank wealthy indirectly by paying your rent, which your landlord is using to pay the mortgage. So, and the only difference is the indirect one, you never really have any rights to the home, right? So I don't know. That argument to me, I think we're focused on other people's pockets. Let's focus on our own pockets. Can we actually afford it? Now, I'm not saying I'm a fan of the 50-year mortgage. By no means am I saying that. I'm just saying every single thing can be done strategically. Everything can be used strategically, right? Just like people don't like adjustable rate mortgages, I think you can use it strategically, right? And so it's about, okay, what makes sense? What makes sense for my pockets? Stop thinking about, oh, I'm going to be paying the bank. Either way, you're going to pay the bank. Wherever you choose to live, somebody is going to be dipping in your pocket regardless. So over the length of 50 years, if you're paying, let me calculate that. If you are paying, what did he say? Let's say you're paying $2,200 a month in mortgage with a 50-year mortgage. Multiply that by 12 months, multiply that by 50 years, and you're getting $1,320,000, right? Now let's do the same thing. Matter of fact, that's the same calculation if you are paying $2,200 a month on rent. On rent alone, if you're paying $2,200 a month on rent, you're paying $1.3 million. Just say $1.3 million. If you are paying $2,200 on rent alone, why not do that for a mortgage? Now, don't get me wrong. There are some expenses that come with being a homeowner. I'm not adding that to this. There are some expenses. Your property taxes will go up. Your insurance will change. You may have some maintenance bills or some random things that you have to, emergency things that you have to pay for. I understand that. I'm not taking that out of context. However, if we're talking simply on the fact that we're going to be paying X amount of dollars over the course of 50 years, let's be honest, we're going to be paying that amount anyway. Let's be honest. So might as well use that to build equity. So I don't really agree with that argument. And I get his perspective because he's an investor, right? And I'm an investor, so I understand his perspective. I get where he's coming from. But if you're thinking about someone who's just living in the house, I just want to live in this house. I just want to have a house to live. I'm not thinking about investment. I'm not thinking about all of that stuff. I'm not even thinking about equity. I just want to live in this house. A 50-year mortgage may make sense for some people, but as an investor, it doesn't. I'm not going to lie.
To the bank. So this 50-year mortgage makes the banker richer. Now, there's a couple things that I want you to understand, and I want you to understand both sides. For most people, this 50-year mortgage is a horrible, horrible, horrible idea because you're going to end up paying way more money in interest. You're never going to pay off your house. You're never going to own the house. It's going to be owned by your bank. On the flip side, the argument is, well, the average homeowner in the United States only lives in their house for 12 years. So if you only live there for 12 or 13 years and you sell it, aren't you going to save some money? And then you can invest the difference, because if you can invest an additional $250 a month into the S&P 500, into the stock market, into whatever, that can make you more money than the 6.5% that you're paying on the mortgage.
Now, I will say this. If you watch my previous video talking about this 50-year mortgage situation, you have to think about the fact that a lot of loans are interest heavy in the first few years of owning that home. So you're paying more in interest than you're paying in the premium principal of the house. So if you want to have a situation where you build so much equity in a short period of time, right? Regardless of how much interest you're paying in the first few years, you would have to be strategic about finding a property with a high appreciation potential. Right? A high appreciation potential. If a property has a high appreciation potential, then you can say, okay, well, I know this mortgage is going to be heavily interest based in the first few years. However, this property will go up in value so much faster because there are some developments happening in the area that's going to bring a lot of crowd and it's going to increase the value of the properties in the neighborhood. Those are things you have to think about. Those are things you have to consider. But if you are just like, oh, I just want to buy a house and I'm going to sell it in 12 years, then you may not even have enough equity in 12 years to pay your broker fees and your closing costs. You may even end up having to pay out of pocket. But that's only if you're not strategic and you buy a house without any appreciation potential.
Yes, in theory that works, but the problem is most people are not going to actually do that. It's the same argument with the 15-year mortgage or the 30-year mortgage. If you could just pay the 15-year mortgage, but then get the 30-year mortgage instead and then invest the difference, you'd be a lot wealthier. But the problem is most people buy their house thinking that this is the biggest investment of their life. They pour all their extra money into the house, into the mortgage payments, into the insurance, into the property taxes, into the maintenance, into the upgrades, and have little to no money left over to invest. How do I know that? Because 7 out of 10 Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and the majority, over 50% of homeowners who bought houses in the last 6 years have financial regrets about that homeowner purchase. Why?
I'm not gonna lie. We can't blame owning the house as the reason why that is. It could be, but it could just be that some people are just not financially savvy. They're not keeping track of their spending. They're overspending. They are living above their means. Like, there may be other factors in play. Like I said, I'm not trying to say, I'm not going against what he's saying. However, I'm playing devil's advocate here, or I'm not an advocate for no devil. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. I don't know if I said it the first time. I'm playing God's advocate. Okay, hallelujah. I'm sorry. I should fix that. But I'm not playing devil's advocate, but I'm just kind of looking from the other person's perspective, which is that, anyway, I forgot what I was saying. That really just caught me off guard. I can't believe I just said that.
Because of the additional cost of homeownership. So we think that buying this house is going to make us wealthy, when in reality, this house ends up being a trap for a lot of people if you don't.
Oh yeah, he was saying that a lot of people buy houses and they look at it as like the biggest investment they will ever make. Well, most people, that is the biggest investment they will ever make. However, is it a wise investment? How's your ROI looking? Did you do research before you made that investment? I tell people this all the time. That's why I made my community free, because I was charging for it at first, but I realized that so many people don't even realize that they actually need help. So many people feel like they just know it. Oh, I'm just going to find a realtor. I'm going to find a lender, and boom, that's all I need. Not understanding that you need education. And I really truly believe that education for buying properties should be really pushed, and saving and budgeting. Like, you need to know what you're spending on. If you are spending more than 50% of your income, that's a problem. But I digress.
Know how to afford the house. My goal is for you to build wealth. I don't care how you do it. I just want you to become wealthy and not work hard to just make your banker richer. Now, there are ways to use mortgages and a 50-year mortgage strategically, but for most people, that's just not going to work statistically.
That's valid.
Now, on the topic of investing, I do want to remind you that for those of you that are investors or want to become investors, I have a brand new free investing masterclass for everybody that my firm and I use. Masterclass, your entry bonus. So if you want to get for you, down in the description below. The third thing that the Trump administration has proposed is a potential $2,000 tariff rebate check, a stimulus check essentially. Now, the whole idea behind this is the Trump administration.
Are you looking to
Before
sell
he
your
even goes
house?
into that, I'm gonna say this: that stimulus check stuff, I think it's a slap in people's faces, because $2,000. Most people's mortgage payments, most people's rent is more than half of that, if not, more than half of that, even if not more than 100% of that. And I just look at it as, look at all these wealthy people just saying, hey, you know what, we're gonna let's just give them $2,000. Let's just give them $2,000 so they can shut up. To me, I just feel like that's a slap in the face. And don't get me wrong, they sent it to me, I'm taking it. However, I see I don't know. I think it's a slap in our faces, especially if you're somebody that takes the money and then just like switches your opinions around. Well, Trump did give us that stimulus check. He was the same person that gave us the stimulus check during his term, the previous term, before Joe Biden. During C-19, he gave us the stimulus check. You see how much it stimulated the economy to the point now we're paying that money back. That money had to be paid back somehow. And now we're doing a tariff stimulus check where they're giving back money that we paid for. You're paying for the tariffs right now. You are paying for the tariffs either by increased spending, right, or cost of things, or by directly paying for tariffs. I mean, there were people that got letters in the mail by the post office telling them, hey, you owe us money in tariffs. Some of that to hundreds of dollars. And you're going to give me $2,000? Thank you, I guess. But like, that's the money that you took from us. I don't know.
Has imposed a lot of tariffs in 2025, and we have brought in a record number of tariff revenue in 2025. And in order to help compensate with all the higher costs, President Trump has hinted at the idea of giving some of this money back in the form of a check. And it's different than the previous stimulus checks, because the previous stimulus checks were funded through deficit spending, meaning the United States government had to go into debt to find the money to fund those stimulus checks. Here, what President Trump is saying is we have so much money from tariffs that we can give some of this money back to American taxpayers in the form of this rebate check. Now, there's a couple things I want you to understand. It is anticipated, according to the White House, that in 2025, the United States government could generate up to $300 billion in tariff revenue in 2025. So the question is, how much is the government going to potentially give out in this stimulus check? Well, if the cutoff is you have to make under $100,000 a year to qualify for the stimulus check, that means there's about 150 million American adults who could potentially qualify. 150 million American adults times $2,000 each is $300 billion, which would essentially mean all of the tariff revenue would have to be used to pay off this $2,000 check unless it's more stringent requirements. Now, again, I don't know what the requirements are going to be. I'm just throwing out hypothetical numbers. What we know is that the Treasury Secretary has said that they anticipate $300 billion of tariff revenue. We don't know who could potentially qualify for this stimulus tariff rebate check, but just understand that if these tariff checks do go out, they're probably going to spur spending, and that spending benefits somebody. Now, you might think, well, if I get a $2,000 check, that means I have more money to spend. That's good for me. Well, the most expensive kind of money is free money.
Facts.
Because when you go and you spend that money at Amazon, at Apple, at Lululemon, at Louis Vuitton, at Chipotle, somebody else is benefiting. And it's the owners of those companies. And this is where I want you to understand who is the winner with everything that we talked about. If there's a 50-year mortgage, if there's a 15-year car loan, who's benefiting? It is the banks. Because that means they're going to make way more interest. See, when you get a mortgage, it is amortized. And what that means in plain English is it is front-loaded with interest. So if you're paying $2,000 a month in your mortgage payment, It's not half of that, $1,000 going to
Let's talk about
principal,
that.
meaning the value of your house to pay off the house, and $1,000 going to interest. That's not how it works. It is the vast, vast majority of that $2,000 is going in interest into your banker's pocket, and then a small piece of that is going towards the principal value of your house. And so if you get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage today, it takes almost 20 years out of a 30-year mortgage before half of your monthly mortgage payment is going to principal, which means you're paying for year 1, year 2, year 3, year 10, year 15, year 18, where more than half of your payment is going directly into your banker's pockets. So now if you do a 50-year mortgage, we can just do the math. That means more money going directly into your banker's pocket with interest year after year after year. So yes, you have a lower monthly payment, but you're going to be paying more money in interest, which means the winner would be the banks, who now are going to be making more interest money. Same with car loans. People don't keep cars for 15 years. And so if people are now financing their cars for 15 years, well, the banks are going to be getting rich because now they're getting interest on something that doesn't even exist anymore. When it comes to this $2,000 stimulus, tariff rebate check, call it whatever you want, who was the winner? Again, it's the investors. Because if you go and you're spending the money at Walmart, Chipotle, Amazon, Lululemon, Gucci, I don't care where, the real winner is the owner of those investments because the money is flowing to the investor. That's how our economic system works. So if you want to go out and buy a house, I want you to think about your house less of an investment decision and more of a can you afford it decision. And if you can afford it.
You know what? He basically said exactly what I said. It's not as an investment. Don't think about it as an investment. Now, if you are making it an investment, think like an investor. But if you're living in a house and this is the house you want to live in, it is an investment, yes. But are you planning on living in this house for a long period of time? The answer is yes. Think about this house as a house you want to live in. Ideally, if you want to build equity that you're like, okay, you know what, I want to sell it after 12 years. Okay, then you have to be strategic and think about it as an investor. However, if you're just living in a house that you just want to live it, like, come on, you know, you don't
go out and buy a house. And when I say afford a house, you got to afford three things. Number one, you have to be able to afford the down payment. That means have at least 20% to put down. I know it's a lot, but you want to have some real skin in the game for the house that you're going to live in. So you're buying a $500,000 house, that's $100,000 cash to put down. Number two is you have to be able to afford the monthly payments. And the way that I like to look at this is not what the banks do. I like to look at this with your spending plan, with your financial plan. If you're following my 75, 15, 10 plan, which says for every dollar that you earn from here on out, 75 cents is the maximum that you can spend, 15 cents is the minimum you invest, and 10 cents is the minimum you save. That means 75 cents of every dollar that you earn is the maximum you can spend.
All right, sales team, eating lunch. Yeah. Let's go.
And out of that 75 cents, you have to pay for your mortgage, your insurance, your property taxes, plus your groceries, plus your car, plus whatever else. And if you can afford your mortgage in there, then go out and buy that house. And the part number three is you have to be able to afford the moving costs. Because when you
I don't even agree with that. The moving cost is not that big of a deal. I'm sorry. Like, especially if you're moving from an apartment to a house, like, just hire movers. It's a few $100s, right? The most important thing that you got to be worried about, like he said, the third thing is moving costs. I think you should be worried. You should be able to try to be able to afford maintenance costs. That's more important than moving costs. Moving costs is one thing. It's a one-time thing. Maybe a few times you got to pay for furniture and all this stuff. That's cool. But moving costs is cool. Maintenance costs, like something breaks and you got to fix it. You got lawn care. You got to change filters. Can you afford that? If the answer is yes, then go ahead. If you cannot afford it, you want a big yard, but you can't afford to pay for the lawn care and you don't have the ability to do it yourself, I would highly suggest that you find something that has a smaller lawn. Or go ahead and buy you a nice big lawnmower that you can drive around. Okay. Now, can you afford that? That's another thing. So those are things that, because they're not cheap. Okay. So those are things you have to consider. Like, you can't just be like, oh yeah, like I just want to buy it. Like, like you gotta consider those things. But moving costs, nah, I guess.
House, what ends up happening
You
is
can get
that
your cousins and them to help you move your stuff. You know, like I have a client right now that she's just putting stuff in her boxes, and her husband are moving from their house and they're putting stuff in a storage right now. So I don't really, I mean, maybe paying for the boxes, I guess.
only now do you potentially need movers to move into the house, which are more expensive than you might think, but now you might need new furniture. You might want to upgrade the kitchen. You might want to build a patio or a deck.
That might take some time. You don't have to do all of that
This is what
at
I
one
call
time.
the move-in cost. And a lot of times we
gotta
forget
roll
about
that at
that. And we
once.
think, oh, when I move into the house, it's already ready to go. And then 2 months later, you realize the AC doesn't work.
You know, that's
the
different.
move-in cost.
Oh, okay.
Having the extra money. to
Okay,
help-
so he's including the maintenance cost and random stuff breaking into the moving cost. So that's valid, but I don't see how that is a moving cost. But
you
okay.
get fully moved in and settled into the house. If you can afford those three things, the down payment, the mortgage payment, and the move-in cost, you can afford to buy a house. When it comes to your car, buy your car with cash, period. If you're wealthy and now you can justify leasing it, then go out and lease it. There's specific tax games that you can play once you become more wealthy when you lease a car. But again, for most people, buy your car with cash. And now when it comes to buying things, if you do get this stimulus check, I want you to be smart with it and understand how you can win with the stimulus check. Because the real way that you can win is not by going out and buying a new pair of AirPods or a new laptop, unless you're going to use it for your business. The way that you win is by taking the money and using it smartly, building some emergency savings, paying off your credit card debt, paying off your other debt, investing the money. This is how you are paying yourself, making yourself wealthier instead of taking that money and not going to Amazon and making Amazon richer. The name of the game to become wealthy is to use your money to make yourself rich before you make everybody else rich. And the reason why so many people get stuck financially is because we get caught up in the game of working hard to make other people rich. Now, I get it. There's a lot of things that are involved in this system. There's a lot of things that make it difficult for people to build wealth. But at the end of the day, if you cannot control your spending, you can never earn enough to bypass.
Valid. I've had a lot and I've had literally negative. And when I tell you I was still able to live on the negative, it made me have a different perspective to say, why was I living paycheck to paycheck when I had so much? And now, like, I'm doing the same thing. And I realized it was because I was not managing my money well. I was not managing my money well, overspending, random stuff, just paying for random things, bank account depleted, do it again next month. It's because a lot of people are not managing their funds properly. Start budgeting. And I'm not talking like using Rocket Money. Like, that's great. You know what I mean? Like they're Mint, all these other platforms that can like help you keep track of your money. I'm talking about you sitting down and fine tooth combing every single thing in your bank account so you yourself can know what you're spending on. Like, you can pay attention, like, wait, I don't know how this money came out of my account. Like, funny, just today, my brother called me. He was like, hey, this $20 came out of a car wash situation. I don't have a car wash. And then I remembered that he paid for my car wash one time, and I didn't realize that they had his card still on file and they were using it, and he has been paying monthly for it, and he didn't even realize. I was just like, oh, well, I guess, every time the bill was paid. I didn't really think much about it. And I was like, oh, okay, let me go ahead and take your card out, because he didn't even know that he was paying for my car wash. So I say all this to say, pay attention to that kind of stuff. Pay attention to your budget, your spending. Like, you can't just think that, you're not making that much money right now. That's the reason why you're unable to save. That's not true. Because if you're unable to save now, how are you going to be able to save in the future? You don't have to save hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars a month. If you can only save $20 a month, Start there. Start saving $20 a month, every single month. Just save and save and save. And then when you start making more money, you'll feel comfortable to start saving $2,000 a month because you've done it before when you had nothing and was still able to save $20 a month. So yeah, I don't know.
And beat bad spending habits. You have to know how to spend your money smartly. And that means you need to know how to have money to save and invest before you spend all of your money. That is really the root key to building wealth. If you have money to save and invest, you now have the ability to build wealth because now you have money to go out and actually invest. If you spend all of your money, you are working hard every single day to make other people rich.
Yeah.
If you want to make yourself rich, you have to make that money, not spend all of it, take the money that you don't spend and then invest it into assets that are going to work to make you money even when you're not working. That is how you become wealthy.
If you are able to buy a house right now with a 50-year mortgage and you can afford, keyword afford, to make the monthly payments, if you are able to pay more into that mortgage payment, right? Like let's say you can afford $2,200 like comfortably, but you end up finding something that you're paying $1,500. Well, what you can do is every single month, instead of paying $1,500, just start paying that $2,200 that you can actually afford. Because then you're paying into your principal, you're building equity that way. And so you're paying into your principal, building equity that way, and therefore you're able to pay off your house sooner than 50 years. But if you don't do that and you're just like, oh, well, I can afford $2,200 a month, but I have this house and it's $1,500 a month, I'm just going to stick with the minimum payments, then you're going to be stuck with that house for 50 years. And you might not even be alive at that point, right? Most people, the average homeowner or home buyer is 40 years old. Okay. So by the time you're 90, then you own the house. Do you want to wait till you're 90 to own your house? A lot of people don't even want to wait till they're 70 to own their house. So I say all this to say, a lot of these things, these are tools. These are all tools to help you get to where you want to be, right? They're not mandatory. You don't have to do a 50-year mortgage. However, they are there and you shouldn't just shut it down just because with an investor's perspective, it doesn't make sense. Yes, it doesn't make sense with an investor's perspective, but from the viewpoint of somebody who wants to just buy a house and live in it, potentially sell it later on, you have to be strategic. Okay, you have to be extremely strategic and it may work for you. So I don't know. I mean, this is the second video that I'm reacting to about this 50-year mortgage that I'm hoping they will tell me something from the perspective of a non-investor, of a person that just wants to live in their house. And, if they have a disagreement, it may, something that would make sense. But I'm not going to lie to you. From an investor's perspective, it doesn't make sense. But from a homeowner's perspective, even though a homeowner is still technically an investor, it just, to me, it makes it more affordable for people to buy a house. That's just my perspective. But anyway, y'all, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm very curious to know what your perspectives are. What do you think? Do you think a 50-year mortgage is worth it? Do you think that you will do a 50-year mortgage if it's easier for you to afford? Let me know in the comments. And once again, y'all, I am on a road to 100 subscribers. I know, humble beginnings. But I'm telling you right now, in 3 years, that's 2028. What is this? This is November 12th, 2028. 3 years. I'm going to be at 1 million subscribers, okay? Okay. So I'm gonna look back on this video and say to myself, you're at 1 million subscribers and you sitting here talking about let's make it to 100 subscribers. But hey, listen, I'm appreciative of all my subscribers and I'm very grateful that you even stayed till the end. My goodness. But yes, make sure you like this video and share it with whoever you think would enjoy it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.